You ready?
Roll cameras.
Roll cameras.
Rolling.
Rolling.
Okay.
Emily Tranberg.
Okay. And where were you born?
I was born in Oak Bluffs, Massachusetts, on the beautiful island of Martha's Vineyard.
Okay. And what happened to get you involved with World War II? What did you?
Well, during World War II, I was 15 when the war came out. And being raised on an island, employment for blacks was almost nil. Growing up there and going to school there, I also came up during a prejudice situation, even in school. But my parents always taught us, be proud of who you are. Regardless of your race, your color, be proud of who you are. So that's how we have gone through life, being proud of our color, our race, and to try to uphold ourselves as a race. So when World War II broke out, my father was on WPA, and there was a family of us of 7 children, 3 adults. And at that time, he was making 50 cents an hour, 8 hours a day. And then he had to report so many days to see if they had employment for him, and the days they had none, well, there was no money coming in. Sometimes he would bring home maybe 3 days' pay. And like my husband was saying, in those days, food was not really very expensive. And we also had like a barter system. The islanders, if they had a farm and they killed an animal, pig, whatever, they would say, okay, Mr. Heathman, you have a large family. Here's so-and-so. And if my father, in turn, could do something for them, that was the pay. Money wasn't really of importance. So when World War II broke out, my father left Martha's Vineyard and went to Providence. That's where they were building ships. And he logged on as a carpenter. So then, after he secured an apartment in Providence, he sent for the family. And we moved from Martha's Vineyard to Providence, where we could all be together. During that time, I was in the 11th grade, and the transfer from a small island school to a big city school seemed so tantamount. We didn't know where we were going half the time. And my sister and I got lost in the high school, so we bunked that class and ended up in the girls' room. And when I heard the ladies' room door open, I peeked up over the top, and who's coming through the door but my sister? We were both lost. So then we decided, well, let's go get a job. So we quit school, against my father's wishes, because he was always a man for education. So we pleaded with him, Daddy. We went down to Walsh Kaiser Shipyard, that was the name, and they were building Liberty ships. So both of us went in as welders. When I went in, we didn't know anything. We had to go to school, welder school. And they first taught us how to do flat welding, just this. So then when you learned that, you went on the shipways and you worked with the shipwrights. And as the cranes would bring in the sheets of metal, we used to call it tacking. You just tack the plates in place so that it would stand upright. All right. Then we went to school. After we got that mastered, they sent us back to school and they taught us how to do vertical welding, up like this. So now we learned two, how to do flat welding and how to do vertical welding. And again, we went back to the ways and we tacked vertical. After we got pretty good with that. We had to go back to school, and you learned how to do overhead welding. Did everything in stages. Then when we got all three mastered, we became certified welders. That meant that we could weld any part of the ship. We did the inner bottoms, we did the freshwater tanks, we did the keel, and of course, in those days, I didn't know anything about wearing men's heavy shoes, but we had to wear steel-toe shoes, and those shoes were heavy. We had to wear welder's leather outfit, and they were hot. Never had what we called a welder's helmet on before. That was hot. Well, I made a mistake. One day, we were supposed to wear a cap. And in those days, women wore kerchiefs. And I put on a kerchief with my hood. Spark caught it, caught the kerchief on fire, and burned some of my hair. And I pulled that thing off real quick. So then I learned, okay, Emily, you have to wear a cap, because the caps would repel the sparks. So then after we became, at that time, you know, we were only making $1.80 an hour. And that was a lot of money, a lot of money. And we lived at home, and again, like my father, we had to be very independent. So that when we got our paycheck, we had to contribute to the house. We had to put some money into the house. What was left, he said, you must save a little out of that, even if it's $1. We had to show him the bank book. What was left, we could have fun. Which I say, everything wasn't really that expensive. So I worked at Welch Kaiser Shipyard from 1942 until 1945, when the war was over. I worked as a welder at Welch Kaiser Shipyard until VE Day, and then VJ Day came. When VE Day came, that's when they disbanded making ships. VJ Day, my parents moved back to Martha's Vineyard, and we settled back there. And then I went back to school. My father was a stickler for education. I went back to school, got my GED, my sister and I both got our GED, and then I started college at Boston State College to become a teacher. But in the meantime, I met a charming young man, and he swept me off my feet, and we did get married, and that is all history now. We have 2 beautiful children. So I have my education. I moved to St. Croix after he retired from his job in Boston, and we moved here to St. Croix, which I am forever grateful to him. This is a beautiful island, and this is home. Thank you.